Okay, so we've been looking at inner join, and now I want to move on to left join. And we actually can't keep using these same tables for left join because we actually only have matching data here. So when I'm looking at our products table, like with the categories, every category ID here matches one of the categories in this table. And also every category ID in this table is represented in the products. So, and same goes with the brands, the brand ID and the brands table. We only have matching data. And so left join wouldn't work here because like if let's say we retrieve this data here, I'm getting 321 rows. If I changed inner join to left join on both, I'm pretty sure it won't make a difference. Yeah, I'm still getting 321 because we only have matching data. So the way that left join works is it gets all of the matching data plus every record in the table that you're selecting from. So we're going to need to look for data from another table. So I'm still going to use the products table. And we'll order by product ID. And then I'm also going to want to get data from, we'll say select star from sales dot order items. So anytime a customer orders bicycles, like any bike that gets ordered is going to go in the order items table. And to make this easier, I'm going to order by order by product ID. So you can see that, so we have in this table the bicycle with the product ID 2 is this bike right here. And when we look at the order items table, we can see that that bike is in a lot of different orders. That's the bike with the ID 2, and now we're moving on to bike with ID 3. But you can see that the bike with the ID 1 has never been ordered. Okay, so I want to write a query where I'm getting data from both of these tables. So I'm going to join these tables, and I'm going to join it on product ID, obviously, because the product ID in order items is referencing the product ID for this table. And so what I'm wanting to get is every order item, the ID with the order item associated with the name of the bicycle. So I'm going to get all of my bike names and then the order ID that's associated with it. So if a bike has been ordered several times, then that bike is going to be listed multiple times, but with a different order ID each time. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to say select, we'll start with just the product name. So I'll say select product name from production dot products, and then for now I'm just going to do an inner join, but I'm going to change that soon. So inner join, and then we're going to get sales dot order items. And I'm going to give both of these tables aliases. So products table I'm going to name P. Order items table I'm going to name O. And then I'm going to say on P dot product ID equals to O dot product ID, because those match. And so now I'm going to be getting, oh, I'm not selecting all the data I need. I'm also wanting the, what am I looking for here? The order ID. Okay. So now I'm getting all of my bikes and the order IDs associated with them. Okay, so just to make it a little more obvious what's going on here, I'm going to say order by product name. And so now you can see here that, okay, so this bike has been ordered 3 times. This bike here has been ordered a lot of times. There's a bunch of that. I think actually what I'm going to want to do is change this to the product ID of the bike. So I'm going to add in product ID and order by. We'll get rid of that for now. And okay, yeah, so this is something interesting here. So this column exists in both of these tables. Product ID. Yeah, so SQL sees this in both tables, and so it wants me to be more specific. So I'm wanting the product ID and name from this table that I'm selecting from, and I've already given it an alias P. So what I'm going to need to do here is say P dot product ID. And so now it understands that I'm looking for product ID in this table. And then we'll add in the order by also with that. I spell that wrong every time. Order by P dot product ID. There it is. And I'm also going to move this down to the next line. Okay, so as of right now, we're getting the bicycle name, the ID that's associated with that bike, and each time it's been ordered in the, the order ID. I think it would make sense if I actually swap this around here, because the order, I think that's going to look a little bit better. Yeah, that's more intuitive to have the product ID with the name that's associated with it next to it. Okay, and so now it's going to be really obvious how a left join works, because we're doing an inner join. So remember that only retrieves records that match on both tables. So now when I change this to left join, you're going to be able to see that we have bikes that have never been ordered. So I should probably change this order by to order ID, I guess. Yes. And so you can see that, okay, so we have, how many bikes do we have? We have 321 bikes. And so from this query, you can see that out of those 321 bikes, 14 of them have never been ordered. And so the order ID is going to be null. And the reason we're getting this back is because we're doing a left join. And left join means that we want all of the data that matches plus all of the data that we're selecting in the table from. So we're getting every record with the product name, whether it matches or not. Because of the way that we wrote this with the order ID, it's obvious that 14 of the bikes have never been ordered. But you could actually write this in a way where you only get the bikes that have never been ordered with a where clause. So you can say where order ID is null. And so now it's only going to bring back null records. And so obviously we're going to get 14 records. Okay, so when I was explaining inner join, you could see that I was stringing them together like I had two inner joins in one query. And you can string joins together however you want. So I have a left join here. I could add another one. In this query, I could add a left join or an inner join or a right join. I know we haven't gone over that yet, but so first thing I'm going to do here is get rid of this where clause. And then I got to figure out what table I want to select from. What table I want to look at to add on to this, because we're selecting from products table and then we're joining order items on there. But another table I want to look at is, we'll say select star from sales dot orders. Okay, so we can see order ID, and that is going to match with this table here. I think I'm going to get rid of this order by right here. Okay, so the way this works is we're seeing order ID 1, and we see that 4 times, and that's because there's 4 different items in one order. So we have item ID 1 through 4 associated with this first order here. And so what I want to do is get the query like we had before with, we have the name, ID, order ID, but what if I also want to get when the bike was ordered? In order to bring in the order date, whatever that column is called, order date, I'm going to need to join it on order ID with the order items, because that's where they match. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring in another left join, and I'm doing that because I still want to get the bicycle even if it doesn't have an order date. So I'm going to say left join sales dot orders on, and I'm just noticing now that the way I'm doing these aliases doesn't really make sense. I think I'm going to change this to I, order item I dot product ID, because I want to name this O, because that makes more sense, right? And I understand that this is ambiguous now, so I'll get to that in a second. So I'm going to join sales.orders on O dot order ID, and that is going to be equal to I dot order ID. Okay, and now I need to figure out, I believe here I'm looking for I dot order ID. Oh, and I'm also going to be looking for the time, because that's why we joined it, the order date. So now, because we've joined sales.orders, I can add in the order date. And hopefully this works. I believe it will work. Cool. So we've got the product name, the ID that goes with the product name, the order ID, and when it was ordered. Okay, and one more time, just to make it really obvious what the left join is doing here, I'm going to do an order by again. Not order by, order by. And I guess it would make sense to do order ID. We could do date or ID. I'll do order ID. So if I run this, now just like before, there's 14 bikes that have never been sold. So obviously they won't have an order date either. So if we were doing enter joins, we would not be getting these bikes back, because that it would have to match everything with an enter join. But left join, we want every bike, or we want every record in production.products. So that's the difference between left and enter join. Okay, so real quick before we move on to right join, I just want to touch on filtering data when you're joining. So you saw before that I did a where ID order is null, and so I was only getting back the 14 records. So you can filter with a where clause after the join, but you can also filter within the join. So I'm gonna real quick, I'm gonna shorten this query to make it actually, you know what I'll do? I'm gonna copy it in case I mess it up. All right, so I want to get rid of this sales orders join. And so we can't even get that column back. And all right, so let's look at this. All right, so let's say first I'll do where, and then I'm looking for order ID. Order ID equals 100. Let's see what that does. Okay, yeah. So this totally makes sense. This is what you would expect. We only want the ones where this equals 100. So the other way you can do this is, instead of doing a where after the on within the join, you can specify a filter within the left join using and. So on, and then you're saying how you want to join it, and then you say and order ID equals 100. And this does something interesting. So it's going to get those 100, order ID 100. There's 5 different bikes in that order, but it's also going to retrieve every bike within the products table, because it's a left join. So you can see I'm getting 321 rows here, but if I select everything from the products table, then there's 321 rows. And so this difference between where and it only makes a difference when there's data that doesn't match. So if I change this to an enter join, then it's no longer going to make a difference if I use and or where, because all of the data matches anyway. So, oh, and if you wanted to make it a little easier to read with that left joined, with the and, because we're getting null records on top. So if you just put this descending, because yeah, that's going to put 100 on top of null, because this having a value is going to be greater than not having a value. So that's the reason it does that. So that just makes it a little easier to read.